All right, so I was asked to come on here today and talk about high ticket sales. So when we say high ticket sales, first of all, this is all relative, right? It depends at where you are, what point. High ticket, as you just said, Chad, it could be 2,000, 5,000. When I think high ticket, I think for just SEO, really 10,000 up. But when I'm thinking end to end, I'm thinking $25,000 retainers and up. And we'll get more into that as well. Let me just get my face out of here so I can see. So when I broke this down into like three main buckets here. I want to talk about attracting larger clients. So how to get the attention of these larger companies, how to get on the radar, how to get them into your ecosystem. Number two is how to close them. So how to nurture them, how to convince them that you're worthy of managing these large retainers. And then three, to me, this is actually probably the most important, which is always overlooked, ironically, is how you can actually deliver this. Because it's a different type of service when we're talking about taking on a 25K a month retainer versus a $500 a month retainer, even though they're very similar. And a lot of the work is overlap, but we'll talk about that. So let me just go to the next slide. So real quick, just a little bit about myself. My name is Ryan Stewart. These are my social handles. Please drop me a follow if you get a chance. I've been in this game for over 10 years. I got my start working in big consulting. I was actually working for a company called Deloitte and Accenture. Eventually went on to go work for Sapient Nitro, which is a massive agency. So I got taught marketing through the scope of big brands. So this was all I knew at first. I knew how to do big $1 million contract campaigns on like target.com, end-to-end digital type stuff, but with a heavy focus on analytics and SEO. I eventually, after that, just realized I couldn't really work for people and decided to go out, branch off, start consulting, started a blog, picked up steam. A lot of you guys know the story. And then I ended up opening an agency, Webris, which I then sold last year. About a year and a half ago now to another agency called From the Future. We got to about 1.2 in revenue in about 12 months. We grew really fast using a lot of these tactics that I'm going to talk about in this webinar in really getting off of those $500 a month retainers and pushing more into the $5,000, $10,000 a month. Because if you want to scale and scale fast and scale large and get up to 50 million in revenue, you can't be doing it on $500 a month retainers. It's just not going to happen. There's nothing wrong with them. That's where we all start. But eventually you have to have the strategic plan in place to move up and push out of those. And we're going to talk about that. So I've also sold to other companies. I had an e-commerce website and I had a couple of blogs and a couple of websites that I've sold as packages. So I've got a lot of experience in this and pretty much all of them run off of passive. It's not passive because it's still a lot of work, but that passive traffic source of organic search. But I push heavily now into advertising, as Chad alluded to. I just launched a new business called the Blueprint Training. It's essentially the agency in a box for SEO agencies. And I'm marketing that with basically what I think is the best type of marketing now, which is content advertising, which we can talk about more in the questions if you guys want to. So I already alluded to this. I built and sold my agency. I now serve as partner at From the Future. That was just up in Philadelphia. We just hit 30, I think like 38 employees. Like we're just growing like crazy. Going to close probably 8 figures in revenue this year, which is exciting. Working with some really exciting clients. And again, these are some of the things that I've extracted from building my own agency and then serving as a partner in the CMO at From the Future to attract these higher clients. So the first thing is to ask yourself if you really want these bigger clients. Like we kind of alluded to it about these $500 a month retainers. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong. If that's the type of business that you want to run, don't listen to me. Stop this right now. There's nothing wrong with building a lifestyle agency. When I built Webris, and really the reason why I sold it was because I didn't want to manage a 100-person agency. I didn't want to get to $50 million in revenue. I wanted to run an agency that was high margin, small, agile, allowed me to make decisions and not be dictated decisions based on clients, based on circumstances, all that type of stuff. My goal was really to get to $1 million in revenue at 60% margin so I could take that $600K in profit and roll it into other investments, right? I wanted to use my agency as essentially a purse to fund other projects, to get into software, to get into things where I didn't have to talk to people, because even though I'm good on webinars, I'm not really good with dealing with clients. It's not my thing. So it's important to ask yourself that, like, what do you want out of your business? Where do you want to go? What makes you happy? It's really sexy to sound like to get bigger clients and stuff like that, but like it's a whole nother level of commitment. And that was one of the big reasons why I wanted to sell my agency, because we grew fast in 12 months to get to that 1.2 in revenue, but we hit a ceiling. And I knew that in order to get past that ceiling, I had to make operational changes, staff changes, and it wasn't for me. So I had an offer on the business and I sold it. And now I'm able to be an equity partner in a much larger agency, but take a more passive role and focus on other projects and just marketing the agency. And not have to deal with the day-to-day operations, which has been a godsend. So just real quick, I'm a little bit old school. Like I said, I came from consulting. I'm big on pros and cons. It helps me to think through things. So I did some of that for you. So on the left-hand side, we've got basically large and small clients and the benefits and drawbacks. So the benefits of working with big businesses. And again, this is kind of built with the scope of SEO. I always just default to SEO, but you can replace SEO with anything you want. The concepts apply to everything here. But one of the good things about working with large businesses is that the SEO isn't end-to-end, it's only partial. So you can really find a niche, whether that's link building, whether that's content creation, whether that's UX, UI design, whatever that may be. These big companies are looking for specific problems that you can solve. You don't have to solve them all. So you can really get in the door with one service that you do really well that you can specialize in and really blow it out and crush a $10,000, $20,000 contract from just doing one thing. So the other benefit is obviously that it's higher retainer value. You're getting paid more for kind of the same amount of work. Obviously, there's more things that go into it, but you yourself are pretty much doing the same thing, just getting paid a lot more for it. But the drawbacks is that you've got to have local people. You can't go and pitch a large, I call them enterprise clients, without having a local staff that's highly trained, that knows what they're doing, that can communicate, but also think strategically. I'm still very big on offshoring a lot of my work, but those things are generally subtasks, right? I'm not asking my offshore team to go and build an SEO strategy or to design a website. I'm asking them to, if it comes to design, I've got an offshore designer that I use who's awesome, but I give him the framework, I give him the brand guidelines, I give him the wireframes, and I basically say, this is paint by numbers, just go do that. So it takes a lot of the time that I'm able to scale my team's time and my time by not having to do tedious things. But you can't really do that when you want to work with big clients. You've really got to have local people that can talk. There's a different level of understanding, communication that you have to have when you sign these big contracts. And there's a lot of communication. And again, that was something that I didn't like. I'm somebody who wants to go deep on something. I want to be on my computer at home like I am now and not be bothered and just get stuff done. But you can't do that when you're working with big clients. You can with small clients because it's a little bit more of an understanding. It's like, you're only paying me $500. You don't get to bother me nonstop. But that wasn't for me, but it is if you want to get paid more. So another benefit, so now moving down to the small contracts, again, like there's nothing wrong with working on small contracts, especially if that's what you want to do. The benefits are it's much easier to get results because you can move the needle a lot faster. The markets are a lot smaller. It's generally a lot less competition. There's way more leads. So as I said, I alluded to the fact that if you want to get to 50 million, you have to sign less clients, but you can still get to 50 million on $500 clients because the market is so much bigger. There's so many more of them. And if you've got a really good outbound sales process, I know, some of my buddies that have agencies that's only work with $500 to $1,000 a month clients that are doing 10 million in revenue because they've just got people calling nonstop and chasing them down. So just another kind of tip and side note, like always hedge on what you do best. If you are by nature a salesperson, you can build a sales team. Like you don't need marketing. You know what I'm saying? You can just go and build that outbound sales engine and crush it no matter what, which we'll talk a little bit more about. There's also much shorter sales cycles with small businesses. You can one call close, which is an amazing feeling. There's really nothing like it. When it comes to working with bigger contracts, we're talking about 3, 6, 9, 12-month business development cycles to land these big contracts. So it's a much different process. Some of the drawbacks are for small businesses is that you can't really do the work, especially when it comes to SEO, for not that much money. As much as software is done for us, marketing is still a very manual process until AI really takes over. It's going to be so for the next 5 to 10 years, which means you need people or you need yourself. And if you want to grow your business, you can't be doing the work. So you need a team, and it's difficult to build the right team when you're only getting $500 a month, because then that person economically has to manage 20 clients, and it's not a fun environment for them. So it's really difficult to do top work when you're trying to squeeze everything out in a shoestring budget. And there's a lot of, I call this scope creep. This is an agency term. Scope creep is when there's things that you're not getting paid for that are getting done, right? So communications is one of those things. Like when a client's constantly emailing you, I can't see the comments, by the way, Chad. If somebody asks a question, you want me to answer?
Yeah, I got you. I'll let you know.
Okay, cool. But communications is one of those things where we charge at our agency now. We charge for project management. We charge for account management. We charge for meetings. We charge for everything. And the clients are happy to pay for it because they understand the value of that communication, where a small client at $500 a month is never going to pay you an hourly rate to sit in a meeting with them. They're going to expect that. And scope creep is basically the concept that you're doing work that's not getting paid for, it's not getting billed, and you're hurting your business and you're losing money. A lot of times agencies, especially when they're first getting started, you look at just top line revenue versus top line expenses, meaning I'm getting $500 a month off 10 clients, that's $5K a month, and I'm paying my staff $3,000 a month, so my margin is $2,000. That's not it, because there's all those things in between where they're wasting their time. You're capping the amount of work that they can do, because you're hamstringing them by all these things that you're not getting compensated for. That to me is like the biggest downfall of working with small clients, because they will never pay you for those in-between things. It's just really hard to commit, and you can't really blame them, right? So I'm going to move on to the next slide. Is that something popping up for me here?
Yep. We got a question.
Yeah, fire away.
So Jordan's asking, how do you consistently go out and find small to medium-sized businesses who see the value in SEO and want to grow? SEO is a hard sell because everyone is bombarded with SEOs.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Like the same concepts I'm going to talk about here do apply for small businesses. It's easier to find smaller leads either through outbound sales. I mean, like, again, I always say hedge on what you're good at. If you're a beast of a network, like you put me in a room full of people and I sit there and like drink 5 beers in the corner and can't talk to anyone. It's not who I am by nature. I'm not a good networker. My skill set is around content, building content like this, and promoting it properly. That's how I attract people. Also ranking websites, inbound leads like that. But if you're good at networking, if you're good at talking to people, go to meetups. There's plenty of businesses there that need help. And if you just go there and provide one inkling of value or start a meetup, I have a meetup, and man, I can't tell you how many leads I get from people I can't work with, probably like 10 every time. That's not an exaggeration, of people that are willing to pay $500 a month, but I don't work with them anymore. So in person is still a great way to do that. Outbound sales, which we'll talk about a little bit more, is a great way to do that. Any sort of inbound marketing is a great way to do that. The market is just a lot bigger and you can target a lot more, which again, we'll talk about more as we get through this. So after going through that, to me, the big question is why even bother? And I should have staggered these with a little bit of animations here, but this is a scale. And this to me is everything. I've learned the hard way about scaling. And it's really, like, I'm all about putting myself and my team in the best position to succeed every day. And working with smaller clients does not do that for you. It's very, very difficult to scale. Just because you're not getting compensated what you should be for. Again, when we're all getting started, we have to take what we can get. I just did a consulting call with one of my Blueprint training members where he talked about how he's going out and he's doing SEO for free for some of his friends to get started. And I'm like, kudos to you, man. Like, that's how you have to start. You know what I'm saying? You have to earn the right to charge more. But you also have to be consistently taking that next step to charge more and understanding how to charge more, attract those people. And charging more is different than attracting higher value clients, which I actually have a really good YouTube video that I just posted last week about how to price your services. I strongly suggest you check it out, where I talk about basically how to increase the value of what you're selling over time. So part one of this, as I said, there's 3 parts. I'm going to talk about how to get their attention, how to attract them to you. So big companies are just not doing Google searches for your services. Again, this is defaulting to SEO, but anything, like I said, like we're down here in Miami, the big brands down here that I would like to attract would be like a Carnival, Bacardi. Like, they're not out there searching for like, I need an SEO agency. They're just not doing that. Right. So they're also really not being attracted by like the traditional inbound things like content ads. They help as a part of the support journey. But when we're talking about attracting people at the top of the funnel, it's very difficult to get their attention doing that. So we've got to take a different approach. And something that's really, really important to understand is the different business development cycles. So what that means is that, again, if we're working with small businesses, they're as needed. They're like, I need SEO. I just found out about SEO. I got a website and I realized that if I rank for Miami coffee shop, I'm going to get more customers. And they're going to go, they're going to search, they're going to find, they're going to interview, and they're going to hire probably within a week to a month, right? Very short biz dev cycle, very different convincing process. Whereas with big companies, they're not doing that. They work off RFPs. For those of you not familiar, that's what's called a request for a proposal. So they're basically working on cycles, right? Where they'll sign a contract for a year, and they might be listening to other pitches. They might be listening to other agencies out there, but they are hiring based on when their cycle is up, right? So that's what I said. There's longer sales cycles. You've got to be patient. You've got to understand how that works. And that means there's a lot more work up front. Like before you're even ready to get an RFP, which is sent to you via email, which means you have to be invited to propose to them. You've got to do work up front, which is called spec work, which we'll talk a little bit more about. So it also, a lot of this comes down to, again, and this is what I said, this is not a strong point of mine, but these people are not going to the internet as a source, as the initial source. They want to work with a company that has been referred to them by another person who's high up in a company, who trusts them, who's worked with them. So it's almost kind of like a chicken and the egg. Like, how do you get within those cycles? How do you get referred? How do you do the work for companies and prove yourself if you're not getting the opportunity up first? You've got to go out and network, conferences. I believe it or not, again, like I was always a very shy person. I was never good at speaking, but I had to develop that skill set, because while I can't go to a conference or a meetup and network with people and hand out business cards, I haven't had business card in 4 years. I know myself. I won't even get business cards because it's a waste of money. So I'll never hand them out.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. It's not who I am. I've wasted probably like $1,000 of my life on business cards, and I have every single one of them still. You know what I'm saying? But if you can put me on stage, if I can better phrase that, if I can put myself on stage, I'm walking out of there with clients. And that was a skill that as a business owner, you have to understand how to develop. Again, like I'm all about hedging on what you do best, but a lot of times you also have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations to make yourself better. And for me, one of those was learning how to speak. And I started by doing stuff like this, behind the camera webinars, which was hard, and eventually graduated to doing meetups, getting myself on camera, getting material, and then starting to pitch those to conferences and events. And over time, this is a 6-7 year process. I still get turned down all the time, even though I've got companies worth, 20 plus million in revenue, I still get turned down. So it's a continuously ongoing process for me to do that. But it's a very effective way for me personally to get out and network. So like I said, most leads are going to come through an introduction or a relationship. If you can hire a salesperson to go out there and help you out with that, somebody who can go and talk to a brick wall, I strongly suggest that, because all you need is someone to make that warm-handed introduction to you, and then the ball's on you to pitch them, right? Another big thing is industry recognition. Obviously, awards are kind of bullshit. We all know that, but document your work, man. Like, show your case studies. Anytime you have success, create a lot of content around that, which we're going to talk about more. Was there a question, Chad, that you want me to get to?
Yeah, there's Timon asked, besides working for free, how much would a total newbie starting out their own agency charge for SEO, keyword research, and link building? So basically what he's asking is, if you're a newbie, what's like a good price point to charge?
Yeah, I mean, so I can't answer that for you because I don't know where you are. I don't know what your expenses are like. Again, like I hate to push you off, but like I have a really, really, really amazing video that walks you through exactly how to price your services. I personally choose to use hourly pricing to build that into retainers or then deliverable based. So for example, if you want to do keyword research, technical SEO, whatever, content creation, you basically have to factor in all your expenses. You have to factor in all your employees' expenses, all your staff expenses, all your overhead, your tax rate, and then tack on your desired margin on top of that. And then you just got to do a little bit of math to figure out what it is that you should be charging at an hourly rate. A lot of people don't want to charge per hour, especially when they're getting started, because I saw some video online that told them not to charge for their time. Hours, you don't have to charge for your time per se, but you do want to charge for your employees' time, because otherwise you're not going to get paid for stuff. And you don't have to necessarily be like, oh, I work 10 hours, I'm sending you a bill for 10 hours. But when you're pricing your services and when you're trying to figure out the value of what it is that you're selling, it should be based on hours. And then that also, again, I talk about this a lot in another video, but when it comes to managing your agency and managing your staff, your profitability, understanding utilization rates, how much people are working, how much availability they have, when you should hire. If you're not tracking and managing hours, you're making it a lot harder for yourself. Again, like you can't look at top line as the final say all. You have to go all the way down to the bottom and price it from the bottom up, figure out what it is that you should be charging for the hour at a minimum. And then start to build out how many hours it's going to take you to do keyword research for them. And then you can flat price that. So for example, if you come up with an hourly rate of $100 and you think it's going to take you 10 hours, then you charge $1,000 for keyword research. You don't have to tell them that, how you got to it, but like hours are justification, and you need to have that figured out.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off that, just to help you out, team, and if you can also log in your Dashix account, and inside of the store under all of the SEO packages that we sell, you can actually see a suggested retail rate right next to it. And that's kind of industry standard what we put. It's not too competitive, or it's not like overly like you're overcharging and you're not undercharging. It's kind of right there where the market's at. I mean, we've been doing SEO for like 10 years. So
Yeah.
I think that especially if you're just starting out, and you're not really sure like what to price and where to go and what to do. Dashix is definitely a perfect solution for you. Just log into the platform. You'll see the wholesale rates, the retail rates. You'll know exactly what your margins need to be. And then you can go that route. So that'll definitely help you out there too.
Yeah, that works too. So is there another question, Chad, that you want me to get to, or you want to push on?
No, you can go ahead. Well, there's a couple coming in, but I don't want to stop because I know you're doing your thing right now.
Okay.
But we can always get back to them. We'll do a Q&A at the end for everybody.
Word. Okay. So this is another very important thing that it's difficult for people to grasp at first, but you've got to know who you're selling to. If you want to sell to a larger company, you're not selling to business owners. You're selling to, again, it's defaulting to SEO professionals here, but you're selling to marketing professionals, people who do this for a living, people who are getting paid $60, $70, $80, $150,000 a year to do this job for a company, right? You have to speak their language, which means you have to find out what their problems are. This is a big fundamental thing that, when you're first getting started, you're assuming that because when you're selling to a small business, you're talking to the business owner, which sucks in itself because that person's not educated. They don't understand the value of what you're doing. And all they care about is the result, which is a terrible way to enter an agreement. Like, you have to shift. Another big reason why you want to work with big companies is because our clients at the agency now care about the value of our work. They understand the value of keyword research as a part of the bigger scope and process. Not going like when you're doing SEO for a small business, you send them keyword research that you spent a lot of hard time on, and they're like, great, are these our keyword rankings, or like, what are these, right? So you have to fundamentally understand that if you want to sell to small businesses, you should be speaking like the rankings results game. It sucks, but that's what you have to do. But when you're shifting to talk about bigger companies, you have to understand that they are talking about $100 million in revenue there. They're not really focused on one keyword ranking. They're thinking about problems that they don't have the time to fix themselves, or the knowledge or the budget in-house. And they need some outside help to come in as a consultant, as an agency, whatever, and take that off their plate. So you have to understand what issues they're solving, and you've got to understand how you can recommend the proper fixes. And you don't want to sell it to them. You just want to help them out. That's like the best way to break this relationship. So that question before kind of alluded to how can I even like start to build these relationships? You can go out and network. You can start to meet people like that, connect with them on LinkedIn. And then again, like, you don't have to know specifically what Scott Laughlin, the SEO manager at Walmart's problems are specifically, but you have to understand what that position within a company like that's issues would be. And again, mostly it's, I don't have the bandwidth to get these things done. Like, he knows technical SEO. You don't need to sell him a technical SEO audit. But maybe there's things on there that he can't implement because he doesn't have time. Or maybe there's things that a missing resource within his team that he doesn't have. So one of the things that I really love to do for cold prospecting, and I'll talk to you about another strategy in a minute, but we built a lot of tools. This was something that I started investing in heavily. So when I told you I was running a small agency with all that extra cash, I wasn't out buying Lamborghinis. I don't even have a car. You know what I'm saying? I live in a nice apartment, but this is 8 years in. You know what I'm saying? I was taking that cash and I was spending it on building tools that I could use to sell more services. And one of those things was a proprietary audit that we used, and we would just have an offshore VA run it. I would give them a list of people that we prospected for off LinkedIn, just like these guys, SEO managers at companies, and we would run it for them for free. And we would send it to them and just be like, hey, look, I'm not here to sell you anything. Like, we just built this tool. It's really cool. Nobody else is doing anything like it. I ran it for you. Here's the PDF report. Take it or leave it. And then just continuously follow up over the next 6 months. You know what I'm saying? Ask them if there's anything else that they need help with, things along that line. So that was something that worked really well for me. So I'm going to push on to the next slide. I apologize.
I'm going to throw in one quick question.
Please.
Trevor said, what are the best high ticket industries to target?
I guess I don't look at it like industry. I look at it more like function, which would be like e-commerce, B2B, software. They're all good, man. I mean, like, I tend to skew more towards web-based businesses because they understand. So for example, like an attorney office, we have an attorney that does, my God, I think like $500 million a year in revenue, like something crazy. They're one of our clients. But 60% of their spend still goes to out-of-home, billboards, TV, radio, right? There's still plenty of a budget for us to do SEO and some design work, but we want the whole pie, right? So I tend to skew more towards like an e-com shop, like e-com. And when I say niche, you can niche down within that, right? Too, like, and I always suggest it, especially when you're first getting started, like find a niche within a niche, right? If you want to go e-com because you've got a good feel for it and that's something that you enjoy doing, you've gotten good results in the past, niche down into like, I don't know, like fitness or like supplements. Find a niche within a niche that you can build a brand around and then expand upwards from there. But I tend to go with companies who are web-based, e-commerce, software companies. They understand that the power of the internet. They're an online company. They don't care about anything offline, and they're going to put 100% of their budgets into online. So I don't think about it as niche. I think about it more as function. But any of those, it's you're good with those.
Oh, dude, that was actually perfect. And guys, I know we're going through a bunch of slides. People are coming in and out, which is cool. If you guys are awake, can you just do us a quick favor? Drop an 876 in the chat right now. Let's fire up this chat. 876. Beautiful. All you guys are awake. There we go. It's a beautiful day here out in South Florida.
So another big thing to consider is unique value and how you position yourself in the market. So you can look at someone like a Gary Vee who's just built like a very powerful, like why would somebody, the way I look at this unique value is why would somebody want to pay you $50,000 a month, right? What is the unique value that you have as opposed to all the other competition? So you have to define what that is and how you can build that and scale it out. Again, like a Gary Vee, he's an easy example to grasp, but he's probably a terrible example at the same time because you're just never going to get to his level. But it's the same thing with me. I decided that building, I hate to call it a personal brand, but using myself to market my company was a really good way to do that. And then people were willing to pay a premium to come and work with my company because they trusted me, right? Personal brands are really, really powerful. Agency branding too, it takes a little bit longer, but a good example of this is on the right. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Boston Consulting Group. It's probably one of the biggest consulting groups in the world. They charge like $2,000 an hour for their time, something ridiculous. And this matrix is something that they delivered. They call it the BCG matrix. It's really simple, as you can see, but they were able to take this and brand this. Another really good example actually is someone like Brian Dean, who developed something called the skyscraper method for link building, which now people like look at that as an industry standard type deal, right? So if you can develop something like that, people will absolutely be willing to come to you and pay a premium for that. So that's what I have down here for proprietary deliverables. This BCG matrix, it looks stupid, but it's a proven platform for them to market and then stand on and deliver, right? It works really well for them and they've made billions of dollars off of it. That little matrix right there. In-house software is another really good one. Again, our agency now has developed something, we call it the website quality audit, where it's a proprietary selling point for us. It's something that we can go out and pitch, saying that like, if you work with us, we built something that only we can run and you can only get that through us. So we're almost like kind of a managed software that helps us get in the door with a big client, either for like a tripwire, like just smaller agreement just to run that and then show them what we can do and then upsell them longer work. But that works really well. And the final one is always proven results. Like if you're just going out there and crushing it for everyone you work with, people will pay for that. You know, like at the end of the day, I said small businesses love results, but big businesses too. They see the value in the process, but ultimately they still want results and they want it in a bigger way too, because they're paying a lot more for it. So this is just a few ways that you can help yourself to do this. So put in the time. I said this before, to document your work. I've literally made a career out of this. I build side projects because I enjoy it, but I also do it because it's the best way to market my agency, because I know that when I take on a client, there's certain things that I can and can't talk about, right? A lot of the times clients want the results for themselves to just make it look like they have an awesome business. So they're not overly ecstatic about you going out there and talking about it. But something that we have on our agency now that we put a lot of time into is building out dedicated case studies on our website. Our agency, when I say our agency now, it's ftf.agency. That's the URL. You guys can check it out if you want. But we have like 12 case studies up there now, and we have an internal commitment to document 2 every month and add them to the website. These are a huge selling point for us and a huge selling point for any agency, right? Once you have that introduction, once you've pitched what you have, people want to see what you've done. So spend the time to document your case studies. It's incredibly important and powerful. Another one is spending the time to build a reputation. These are some of the reviews that I have online. They don't just show up there. I've actively gone out and solicited to people to go out and leave us reviews on Google My Business. Again, Weber's was the name of my old agency, just FYI. It's the name is stuck because we do so much traffic, but Facebook, Google my business. And then of course, if you can, I've gone out and really solicited hard for video testimonials. They're more for like my personal consulting and for my training course. But like, there's nothing that sells more than someone who's willing to get on camera and talk about how awesome you are. I know it's hard to do, it's hard to get, but that's why I say like you have to spend time to build these things. Your reputation is not just given to you. It's built, it's developed, and more than anything, it's created. So it's really important that you take the time to do that. This is something, again, that I built a career off is spending the time to build knowledge. Content is, I know people like Gary Vee are out there saying content, but it's always taken out of context. Content is something that it's not just blogging. It's not just going on Instagram Live. It's taking the time to understand your customer's journey and how you want to nurture them throughout the process. Content is the best way to reach people at the top of the funnel. It's also the best way to push them through your funnel and make them want to give you that RFP. So I've gone out and done things like guest posting on the biggest blogs in the world. And if you can't write, pay someone $1,000 to do it because they will do it for you. Another thing.
I found you on your probably one of your videos on YouTube. Your back video.
Yep. YouTube has been another huge thing for me. We just hit like over 1 million views on YouTube, which is awesome. And again, it gives me a scalable place to publish my thoughts, create content, document all these things. And they all just flow together, right? Again, like understanding that path to getting that RFP is not going to be like, oh, I saw your video, I want to work with you. No, it's, oh, I go to a conference and like, oh, I saw your video. That's right. Let's talk. You know what I'm saying? So like understanding how content is not, it's a nurturing process. It's a long, ongoing thing. And it's incredibly important, especially when we're talking about promoting it as well. So, which feeds into this, which is just a theory of mine of being everywhere at all times. I used to think that I was annoying people. Now I just don't give a shit. You know what I mean? You can't work with me if you don't know who I am. It's a fact. So create content and promote it hard. I know it takes budget. I know it takes time. If you don't have the budget to advertise it, get active on Quora, get active on Reddit, get active in Facebook groups, start from the ground up, build traffic, build awareness, build reach. Incredibly undervalued things in a time where digital tracking, everything has become return on ad spend, return on investment. It's critically important, don't get me wrong. But those are the same people who focus on that and they don't understand the value of attention, reach, awareness, critically undervalued. And again, like you can't get a return on ad spend from people who don't know who you are. It's just a fact. So as I said, content is it's a critical part. I call it my hypothesis. I have like a hypothesis about how I market, how I service the clients. I use content to promote, to build, communicate, and promote my hypothesis on how I will help your business. And it's 100% of the reasons why I'm sitting here right now. There's some questions coming in, Chad. Are they worth talking about? You want me to keep pushing through?
Well, somebody asked, can I steal your emoji blog post idea?
My emoji blog post idea? Oh, the creative?
I guess so.
Yeah, if you want. I mean, creative is incredibly important. Yeah, if you want to. I didn't invent emojis.
One that came through, he says, Trevor asked from Facebook, he says, I know that high-ticket clients are often protected by gatekeepers. Are there great workarounds? Is often to find them on LinkedIn or Facebook and direct message them? What's a great lead message that we can send them to spark interest that won't get ignored?
I'm glad you asked that because that brings me into the slide. So number one, they're actually not protected by gatekeepers. To me, a gatekeeper is like a secretary, and you're thinking about trying to get in touch with the CEO. You're not trying to do that. You're trying to get in touch with the people who are actually really easy to get in touch with. You just have to know how to get in touch with them. And while I do believe in LinkedIn as a prospecting tool, as a content creation tool, I don't believe in it as a direct messaging tool. Because if you go to my LinkedIn inbox, I have 8,000 messages from people who are just selling me stuff. And even when they're like not selling me stuff, I know they're trying to sell me stuff. It can work, don't get me wrong, but like to me, it can work better when we're talking about doing this for mass. Like if you have a piece of software for bloggers, you can spread that net wide and get the little bit that will come in, and that's fine. You'll get customers from it. You'll be profitable. But if we're talking about trying to get high ticket clients, the market again is so much smaller. We're talking about a fraction of the market. You don't really want to just be spamming out, blasting them. You'll just not only not get their attention, but if you do get their attention, they'll never hear from you again in the future. So, and this is a little bit of a juxtaposition because it says the first bullet point here says you need to aggressively pursue your target clients, but let me explain that for a second. So, basically what that means is that inbound marketing is not enough. Creating content is not enough. You need to go out and pursue them. And this is something that our agency is doing now. We've relied so heavily on inbound leads because of the content that I create. My business partner and the CEO, he's really well known in the space as well. People just come to us because they want to work with us, but that's taken us to, 6-7 million in revenue, but we want to get to 50. To get to 50, we're in the process of building like a very aggressive sales team. When I say aggressive, that doesn't mean we're picking up the phone and in Wolf of Wall Street calling people. It means that we're building a sales process. We're building the right way to get to prospect and find the people that we want. So again, going out and manually finding a list of 1,000 marketing managers at the companies that we think we can help, and then figuring out the best way that we can get in touch with them and get their attention. So I'm going to give you an example right now. Demandware is, so when you asked about niche and I said e-commerce, Demandware is a CMS, just like WordPress, but it's only for e-commerce. And it's really, really expensive and really advanced. We're talking about 100,000 products and up. So I know that anyone who uses Demandware has a lot of money. They make a lot of money and they need a really good marketing agency without a doubt. You're not doing that in-house at that point. So we built a little crawler. There's a platform called Built With, which allows you to see whatever website you're on. It tells you a ton of stuff about it, like IP address, but it will also tell you the website's build. So if it's on WordPress, if it's on Wix, if it's on Demandware, they have an API. An API allows you to extract that out and put it in something else. So we basically, we had built a web crawler in Hadoop before. We basically combined that technology with that API. And we were just constantly crawling, looking for websites running on Demandware, right? So now we have a list of websites that run on Demandware that are 100% our target audience. No questions asked. And this can be the same thing for, I wouldn't go WordPress because it's too broad, but there's other CMSs that do this too. Maybe like BigCommerce or something like that. That's probably a bad example, but same thing, right? So we crawl these websites. We got all these emails. We then cross-check that against LinkedIn to make sure that we have the right person, like a marketing manager and not just, the CEO or a secretary. We want to get the marketing manager. So now I've got a huge list of the marketing managers' contacts at these companies, right? I put together a really, really informative and in-depth blog post. This is why I don't mind telling you the strategy, because I know that none of you are going to write a blog post that's this good. So basically what it is, it's a blog post that talks about really in-depth Demandware SEO issues. So I know, because we've worked with Demandware, we have clients that run on Demandware, that it's a really difficult platform for SEO. There's issues with canonical tags, pagination, faceted nav, all sorts of technical issues with it. So I wrote a really in-depth blog post. You guys can, again, check it out on our website. If you just Google Demandware SEO, it ranks first. Thank you. And you can check it out to see what I'm talking about just while we're going through this. But then I just put that together, wrote it up, published it. Obviously, it's not that simple. It took me 2 months to gather that information. And then I sent them this email. So I'm just going to read it to you guys so you can see it. It says, "Hey, Stephanie," this is the name of the person at that company, the marketing manager, says, "We've never met before, so apologies for the random outreach. My name is Ryan Stewart. I'm a partner at From the Future. We're a technical SEO and UX agency with offices in Philly and Miami." So basically right there, what I'm telling them is I'm asserting a little bit of authority. I'm telling them what we do, that we have 2 offices, blah, blah, blah. So then I just get right into it. Demandware is a great platform for a company like yours, but as you may or may not know, there's a lot of funky issues when it comes to SEO. Through the work with clients who run on Demandware, we've seen and fixed it all. I compiled them into this short blog post. You can link to it here. Check it out. That's it. No call to action. Just wanted to offer up to see if it would help in any way. Have a great day. That's the outbound pitch, right? That's the way that I'm finding those people, connecting with them in a very, very kind of hey, I'm not trying to sell you anything way. Here's a blog post. Now, the beauty of this too, now if you're a true marketer like myself, what we did is we then set up a pixel on that page, a URL specific rule within Facebook that anytime someone goes to that page, we then have a remarketing ad that remarkets them a little bit more of a sales offer. A video of our agency shows all the people, really dope video that says the title is "We're Demandware Experts." So after anyone goes to that page, and it's not just through this outreach now too, if you Google it again, it ranks for Demandware SEO. So anyone coming to that page, now that search is highly qualified. That page is a sales page in itself. They just don't know it, because anytime after that, they're getting remarketed that ad that tells them we're Demandware Experts and has a link to a form to contact us. That aside, this email, we then follow up with a week later that just says, if they click this link, we know that they saw it, they were somewhat interested in it. It says, if they click that link, send them a follow-up email that asks them if they want to if they have any questions, if they want to, just have their team pick our team's brain free of cost. So I'm like gradually. Again, we're talking about a long sales process here. Even after that call, again, like at that point, if they accept that call, which is low, probably like a 2% success rate, they know what we have to offer, right? So again, this is kind of answering that question from before about how do you do this the right way. To me, this is how you do it the right way. I'm not just blasting you on LinkedIn like everyone else saying, hey, we're SEO experts. Like, no, you're not. You know?
I think one piece, just to add something also, because I see it a lot within the users and dashers and stuff. So everybody's all about like doing things in like such volume, and they're just trying to blast out and do like kind of like a shotgun approach, versus what I like to do, and any good marketer would know that, is to do kind of like what you're doing here is a sniper approach, right?
Yep.
Where you know exactly who you're trying to market. You're taking the time to craft like the blog post that you said it took you 2 months. You're taking the time to find the information, to scrape the information, segment it, organize it, set up the follow-ups, like going through and actually doing all of that, versus just buying a list and just emailing a million people saying, hey, want to get some SEO? I do SEO. Just like every other person and every other like Indian person that sends me 50 emails to my email every single day talking about how they're going to change my website. I mean, I get emails that's talking about, hey, we can help improve your SEO. And we're a freaking SEO company. Right? So they obviously we've done it in the past. We know how it works. We know, we all know how to send email blasts and stuff like that, right? We automate things. We're a software company too, right? But like that shit doesn't work. It just doesn't, right?
It doesn't. It's a waste of time is what it is.
Yeah, just put some strategy behind it, man. Yeah. That's what Ryan's showing you here, man. Just you guys need to put a little bit of strategy. Do you guys agree with me? Can you drop a 488 in the chat? If you guys think that putting strategy behind it and kind of using the sniper approach is better than using a shotgun approach, just drop a 488 in the chat so we can hear. And guys, don't make me go into the panelist thing and call you out. You got to engage with us. Drop a 488 in the chat. You want me to go in the panelist? All right. Let's pull up the panelist. There we go. 488. All right, cool. We got to make sure that you guys are awake. 488. The chat is blown up. All right, cool. All right, let's keep rolling.
So that's part one. That's how to attract them. Now we're going to talk about how to close them. So this is something, again, that I see a lot of, is people don't spend enough time on the proposal. Again, that's fine for small businesses. When you have high lead volume, you're sending out 20 proposals a week, use a template, change some things, that's fine. You'll have a standard success rate. But again, just as Chad said, when we're talking about something much bigger where the market is much smaller, you've got to really take your time with these things. Something that I always is, I have it here as a consult call, but really it's a discovery call. I make them fill out a discovery form, and I will literally spend like 30 to an hour of my time digging into their business and just giving them like the best piece of, like, I want to sell them on me first. I want them to understand that I know as much as they do, and I care about their business and I care about solving their problems. So I do that. I take my time with that. Then me and my team get on a whiteboard and we'll start to map out. I call them the top 10. What I like to do is build a list of top 10 opportunities for that business and for that website. It's mainly SEO, but a lot of it's UX too, improving conversions, just basically how we can come in and solve their problems for them right away. So we'll list out the issues and then how we can fix them, right? And then just quoting them based off that. It's pretty simple, but it does take a lot of work. It's almost like doing a free strategy. It's called spec work in the advertising world. Like I said, I used to work in a big advertising agency. And I remember I was like 22 years old. I was working on a pitch for Universal Studios. And we built them basically a full functioning app just to pitch that work because the contract was like $6 million. We lost the work too. And the amount of time and effort that went into it, it was like heartbreaking, you know what I mean? But if you want to play, that's the price of admission, it's, and the bigger it gets, the more these companies expect. They are going to, because they swing such a big budget, they command that and they want to, if you're paying $6 million too, you want to see exactly what you're going to get as well. So you've got to do it, and it sucks. And our team always complains about it, but that's just, again, that's the price of admission here. So something that I like to also suggest is initially you go deep and not wide. So what I mean by that is hyper focus on specific issues that you're super, super good at. These big companies, they're not sole sourcing a contract to one agency. I would imagine that Target probably has like 100 different agencies that they're managing at any time. Um, so you have to understand that they're not looking for someone to come in and solve all of their problems. They're looking for someone to come in and solve specific problems. Once you get in the door, again, I keep using the word tripwire. If you guys aren't familiar with the tripwire product, it's like an old school Ryan Dice internet marketing tactic where it's like he wants to sell you $1,000 product, but he's going to get you to pay for a $5 product first. Because once you open that wallet, you see like when you pay for something, you're actually going to consume it. So he knows that if you pay $5, you're going to read what he wants and he's going to sell you in that part, right? It's the same thing with selling services. You don't have to get in and get a $100,000 contract up front. You can get in for $1,000, do something that you do very, very well, and then upsell the rest of it on that. You know what I'm saying?
Value ladder. Let's go up the value ladder.
Yeah, there you go. Called all sorts of different things, but it's tried and true and it works. So again, these people are looking for experts that can help them solve specific problems. And you can outpitch your competitors by offering really high value items that just fold really well into what you're doing. So like an example is if you do link building, think outside the box, to pitch influencer marketing as well. You know what I'm saying? Not just the same thing that everyone else is pitching, something that you can go very deep on and help them solve a lot of these problems. So that was a quick one. And I just want to get into, again, I'm going to wrap this up because I do want to get into Q&A, but how to deliver the work. This to me is something that's always undervalued by agencies. A lot of people want to sell and not, focus on their operations. But at the end of the day, your service is your product. It's the most important thing. Marketing is not hard. Everyone here probably knows marketing just as well as I do. But I'd be willing to bet what I know better. And the reason why me and Chad are sitting here is because we figured out how to scale it, right? We understand that it's not just about, ranking for a keyword. It's about how you manage the entire business. And so much of that is process. So it's really key. Damn, my slides. There we go. Sorry. Give me a moment here. Just let it load. If not, I'll just freestyle. So basically, what this slide is going to talk about once it loads is the importance of process in your business and specifically with your agency. So there's different levels of process, right? When I say process, I mean your keyword research that the person alluded to should have a process. We use standard written SOPs. And I hate to put in a plug in a sales pitch here, Chad, but if anyone out there does do SEO, the blueprint training is we give you all of our SOPs, step-by-step training videos. It's literally an agency in a box. It's how to get it out there. But everything is documented. And that was my job to do that. When I first started, I knew that my time could only go so far. And if I was going to get to the next level, my people had to take over for me. And the only way that I could do that, the only way to fix that knowledge gap was to take what I had in my head and give it to them. And that's not being able to, each one of us as individuals has something that's special to each of us, right? I can't take over. I can't give them my gift just like they can't give me their gift. But what I can give them is a process to approach it and solve it their way, right? So a process means giving them a documented approach, giving them the right template, and then letting them think creatively and strategically to figure it out and improve on it on their own. Part of that is hiring, but most of that is training and giving your employees the best way to succeed. So the other part of that too is it's not just about your deliverables. It's also about the in-between things. So when I say the in-between things, I do a lot of agency consults. And one of the first things that I ask people is I say, run me through your whole process from the time that you find the client that you want to work with to your selling process, to your contract process, to your onboarding process. And a lot of people are like, we send them an email. Like onboarding is one of those things that needs a process. Everything needs to be defined from start to finish, to when a client is leaving, right? When a client leaves, that doesn't mean they're leaving. It means the contract is up and they will come back if you treat that the right way. So everything from onboarding to offboarding, project management, account management, how do you structure your meetings? Like if you go onto a client call with a huge Fortune 100 enterprise client and you don't have a meeting set up ahead of time, you're as good as fired. Right. So everything from how you approach your meetings to your internal communications, everything needs to be documented. It's unfortunate that these things aren't loading because there were a couple other things in there, but let me see if I can do it this way. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Yep. So as I mentioned, there's a level of communication that larger contracts require. And so much of that is offset with processes, onboarding, meeting schedules, project planning, all that stuff will make or break the relationship. And the last thing is just quality too. I said this, it's kind of like a chicken and egg process here where how can you do quality work if you don't have the big clients? Well, once you have one of those clients, even if they're a small client, even if it's a free client, do that work to the best of your ability. Your reputation is determined by the quality of your work, and your referrals that will come in that will eventually get you to the clients that we're talking about will be directly correlated to the quality of your work. There's nothing more important than the work you produce initially. And even more importantly, as you grow and scale, that means there's nothing more important than the people that you hire and how you treat your people, the culture that you create. It's so funny because when I first started, again, like it was all about scaling, doing the good SEO work, getting results. And now as I go up to Philly once or twice a month, my job is to drive demand gen for the company, but it's also to make sure that my employees are as happy as they can possibly be. Because I know that if one of those people leaves, somebody that we've invested 2 years of training in, they know everything, they're comfortable, they're happy, all that stuff, then it's a huge detriment to the business. Like we're letting a piece of our product walk out the door every time we lose an employee. So you have to invest in that. Like employee happiness, all these things, your deliverables, it takes time, it takes attention, it takes care. It's not something that's given. And that's it. As I said, I did one final plug here. Everything, if you have an SEO agency, you can go to the website and just determine it for yourself if it's worth it for you. But it's the blueprint.training. That's my plug. And Chad, if you got any questions now,